All right. Good day and welcome to learning the GSTs, which stands for General Studies with Covenant Science tutorial. All right. So on today's episode, I'm going to be introducing the GST111, which is the communication in English, especially for students in UNIBEN, the University of Benin, or if you are in any tertiary institution and you happen to do the GST 111 course, you can partake of this series. All right, please ensure you like this video and subscribe to the channel to help the channel reach more persons. Okay, thank you very much. And if you don't mind, you can as well share this channel, the link, with a coursemate, a friend who is probably in need of the content hereon. Now let's get right to it. In GST 111, the first thing you ought to know is communication in English. Okay. Now we have an outline here that we're following for chapter 1. What is communication? The factors that affect communication, the purpose of communication, the medium of communication, what is a sentence, and under that we're going to look at the types of sentences, components of sentences, sentence patterns, and lastly we're going to treat practice questions. So let's go. Communication. What is communication? Communication, in the simplest of terms, is defined or can be defined as sharing information or sharing ideas or sharing beliefs. All right, it could even be culture, tradition, practices, philosophies, etc. that a person exchanges or transmits to someone else. All right, for communication to take place, there are parties involved, and these parties are called communicants. Okay, the parties involved in a communication are called communicants. Excellent. Now, for communication to occur, there are certain factors that interplay. One of these factors, or the first of these factors, is there must be a medium of exchange, a medium of transmission. And in communication in English, this medium of transmission is popularly known as language. And the language in focus here for this course is the English language. All right, so the first factor that affects communication is a medium of exchange, a medium of transmission, which is called language. The second factor that affects communication is mutual interest. Before two persons or two parties or more can communicate, they must be interested in what is being shared. They must be interested in the topic. All right, that which is to be discussed must be something of interest to both individuals or to both parties, or as it were, to both communicants. The third factor of communication is mutual understanding. Mutual understanding. Before communication is said to occur, both parties involved must understand each other or one another. So there must be mutual understanding between or among communicants. All right. This mutual understanding is greatly sponsored by the choice of language. Yes. So if I communicate to you or with you in a language you are familiar with, then there will be mutual understanding. You see that now? Excellent. So these are the basic factors that affect communication in any language, not just in the English language. All right. Now, what is the main purpose of communication? The main essence or purpose of communication is the achievement of oneness. or what we call unity. The main purpose of communication is the achievement of oneness or unity. All right. So in communication, when we share, we achieve or we accomplish oneness, we accomplish unity. And that's the essence of communication. Excellent. Now, the medium of communication is language. Outline D on the board. The medium of communication is language. Now, a language, in the simplest of definitions, is a system of alphabets, that is letters, sounds, signs, all right, and even words, which adhere to an acceptable grammatical law, or they subscribe to appropriate grammatical principles which govern their usage or utilization. You see that now? Excellent. So that's a language. Now, when we communicate in the English language or in any language, but like I said earlier, the focus here is the English language. When we communicate in the English language, just like I have been doing, we produce stretches or streams of speech sounds, all right, or even of letters, because communication may either be verbal or it may be written. Yes. So in verbal communication, I produce speech sounds, but in written communication, I produce letters. These sounds that are characteristic of the verbal communication are called phonemes. You have them here. And the sounds, or rather the letters that are characteristic of written communication, we call them graphemes. Excellent. All right. Even basically speaking in the English language, we have what is called the spoken English and the written English. Yes, these are two distinct layers of the English language. Okay, so let's proceed. Now, when I utilize a language in communication, I produce stretches of speech sounds in verbal communication or stretches of letters in written communication called sentences. So a sentence is a collection of speech sounds or a collection of graphemes. That's what we call a sentence. All right. In the simplest of forms, a sentence is a collection of words. But when you take or you have a judicious look at words, you would realize that a word is made up of sounds and letters. That is to say, a word is made up of phonemes and graphemes. Okay? Excellent. Now, a sentence has two main parts. Okay? All right, let me come this way. A sentence actually has two divisions. Yes. We have what is called the main parts of a sentence, and we have what is called the peripheral parts. The main parts of a sentence are just two. We could also call them the traditional parts of a sentence, or the principal parts of a sentence, or the basic parts of a sentence. So these parts include the subject and the verb, also called the predicate. The two main parts of a sentence are the subject and the verb, also called the predicate. While the peripheral parts of a sentence include the object, the complement, and the adverbial. These are the peripheral parts. The object, the complement, and the adverbial. Now, the subject and the verb are regarded as the main parts simply because every good sentence must possess both. In some cases, both are just enough for communication. Yes. All right. So it is often considered the most important part by grammarians. Now, what will happen when we remove the subject from a sentence and leave only the verb? Such a sentence becomes what we call in English a misrelated participle, also called a participial. You can see that here. If I remove the subject rather from a sentence, what I have is a misrelated participle, otherwise known as a participial. Yes. Conversely, if I leave the subject in a sentence and I remove the verb, I would produce what is called a phrase. All right. And by definition, a phrase is a collection of words that does not make sense. Okay. Or grammatically speaking, a phrase is a collection of words that lack a finite verb phrase. Yes. All right. So the subject and the verb are very important in communication because they are the most important parts of a sentence. So we cannot trivialize their place. Now, these peripheral parts, beginning with the object, we have two types of objects, the direct object and the indirect object. In the GSTs, they are often represented by certain symbols, which are the O subscript D and the O subscript I. This stands for direct object, I stands for indirect object. The complement is also a part of a sentence, a peripheral part, and it is of two types. The subject complements C subscript S and the object complements C subscript O. Okay, then lastly we have the adverbial. Now, as you know in the use of English, or probably you don't, but right now you would, the adverbials are of different types. We have what we call the adverbials of time. They answer the question when. All right, they tell us when an action took place. We have the adverbials of place, also called the adverbials of location. They tell us where an action occurred. We have the adverbials of reason. They answer the question why. They tell us why an action took place. We have the adverbials of manner. They tell us how, which is how an action occurred. All right, and more often than not, adverbials of manner in the English language end with a suffix known as ly, e.g., slowly. You see that now, fastly, although that's a bit esoteric now, yes, and not so much in usage. Okay, but most adverbials of manner end with ly. You see that now? Excellent. We have adverbials of degree, which answers the question how often. Examples include very, to, too, all right, and even so, so. Yes. So they tell us the extent or the frequency to which something happened, especially an action, because adverbs must modify verbs. Okay. Then lastly, we have what we call the adverbials of concession. Yes, we employ these adverbials to draw contrast. Excellent. Now, please note that of all the parts of a sentence, the adverbials are the least stable positionally. Yes, they are the least stable positionally. Okay, so now we have seen the outline on communication. We have equally seen what a sentence is. We have seen the components of a sentence, which I told you of two divisions, the main parts and the peripheral parts. The main parts, which include the subject and the verb, the peripheral parts, which include the object, the complements, and the adverbial. All right. Lastly, we have what is called the types of sentences. Now, there are three main types of sentences. Number one, we have what is called the simple sentence. Number two, we have the complex sentence. Number three, we have the compound sentence. Now, these are the three main types. Although in recent times, some modifications have been made, okay, where two sentence types were combined to form a new sentence type. For example, some textbooks, some authors, some teachers of the English language will tell you that aside the three types of sentences I mentioned, being simple, complex, compound, we also have the compound complex sentence and the complex compound sentence. Okay, so I maintain that there are three types. All right, and if you understand these three types, you can know how the other two, which grammarians have added, you can know how they come about. So the basic types of sentence are just three: simple, complex, and compound. All right, excellent. So in my next teaching video, I will be talking on what we call the types of sentences, how to identify them, and the sentence patterns. But before we go, I would like you to know that when we form a sentence, that sentence is made up of words. All right, the words that make up a sentence occupy a position known as the function slot or the functional slot. Also, the words that make up a sentence in the English language, we call such words elements. Consider the sentence here: the big dog has run mad. You see that now? Each of these words are called elements. The position they occupy is what we call the functional slot. So the position of this word here called D is the article. Big is the adjective. That's the position, the functional slot. Dog is the noun. Has is actually an auxiliary verb, precisely anomalous. Run is lexical. Mad is an adjective. You see that now? So each distinct position is what we call the functional slot. Meanwhile, each word is called an element, a sentence element. Are we learning? Very good. All right. Now, in the second sentence here, the big dog has run mad. I combined some of these words into packs or groups or pockets. All right. Here, I combined the big dog and it became a noun, which is occupying the subject position. I combined the verb has and run to form the verb phrase. And the verb mad, I beg your pardon, the adjective mad is coming at the end. You can see that clearly. Good. So, this is what we call grouping in sentence formation. Grouping. All right. So, instead of each functioning as a distinct unit, we can combine them, all right, into a whole, just like the big dog becoming noun. You see that now? This grouping is necessary when we want to break sentences into their respective patterns. That is when we do grouping. Okay? Very good. What else do we need to know here? For a sentence to be grammatically correct, all right, it must make sense. All right? And it must subscribe to acceptable grammatical principles within the language of interest or the language of communication. Are you there now? Very good. So, this sentence is said to be grammatically correct because it follows a grammatical principle. Also, among the components of this sentence, we have a network of interaction. This network of interaction is what we call the constituent structure. Constituent structure. You see that now? Very good. That's lovely. All right. What else do we need to know here? The SVC written under here is just one of the sentence patterns which we're going to be talking about in my next video. All right. So don't forget what I said. The position occupied by a word in a sentence is the functional slot. The network of interaction among the elements of a sentence. All right, by elements I mean the words in a sentence. The network of interaction among the elements of a sentence is what we call the constituent structure. Okay, so that's basic and interesting. Okay, so at this point, I'll stop here. All right, do ensure you watch this video over and over again to get the concept of everything that has been explained or talked about. All right, do not forget to leave a like, to drop a comment, and also to share this video with your classmates, course-mates, on your class groups, and so on, and as well as subscribe to the channel so that whenever a new video drops, you will get notified promptly. Okay, a quick one before I go. You should know that the position occupied by a noun in a sentence is called the nominal position. Nominal. The position occupied by a verb is called the verbal position. Don't forget that position is what we call functional slot. The position of a word in a sentence is what we call functional slot. Yes. So if a word functions as a noun, it is in the nominal position. If it functions as a verb, it is in the verbal position. If it functions as an adjective, it is in the adjectival position. If it functions as an adverb, it is in the adverbial position. Okay? Also, please note at this point that a word can be made to function in different capacity or capacities. In the English language, a verb can be made to function as an adjective can be made to function as a noun. When any of these conversion of functionality occurs in sentence formation, we call it word conversion. Please take note of that. Word conversion. So what are we saying in earnest? Via a process called word conversion, a word belonging to a part of speech can be made to function in another capacity. All right, that is to say, we can move a word or step a word down from its original syntactic category, all right, into another one. That's what we are saying. Okay, so an example is the word wicked. The word wicked is an adjective used to describe a person that is cruel, that is heartless, that is atrocious or iniquitous. You see that now. But when I combine wicked with man, it becomes a noun, e.g., the wicked man. So you see now that wicked, being an adjective, has been stepped down from its original syntactic category, which is an adjective, and has been made to function as a noun. This process is what we term word conversion. Thank you very much. So until next time and same channel, I'll see you.